Hi, this is On Air, my Beatles collection. Today I'm going to show you something that I think is really super special. There aren't too many of these out there. This is a unauthorized CD set, and I'm going to tell you the somewhat long story about it. The series, and it is a series of CD sets, is called the Lost Album. And it actually, the way it's constructed in such a way that each CD in this set could arguably be an album unto itself, with all different themes. It started out with this one box set that looks like this. See, it says the Lost Album. There's some very small print on the back, which you'll have to freeze and blow up in order to read it. But I'll just give you the basic intent. This first box had 8 CDs. So 8 CDs that arguably could be 8 albums. Each set, and there are several, I'll show you each of them. Each set covered some time in the period between 1958 and 1969. And then in some cases, there were some bonus discs or bonus songs in some cases, not just discs, but bonus discs as well in some cases. They covered some of the solo years. Some of that bled over from the 60s where the individual Beatles were working on material that they thought was going to wind up on a Beatle album, and it wound up on a solo album. And in other cases, these recordings are actually bonus recordings that were recorded after 1969. But the basic intent of the series was to capture, at some point, every unreleased thing that the Beatles did from 1958 to 1969. And over a period of several years, they kept discovering more material, and they kept releasing more and more of these sets. So this first one came out in 2017, December of 2017, and there were 8 CDs. And kind of the material that was on this first one was kind of a mix of all this whole time period from 1958 to 1969. So there's a remix of Free as a Bird and a remix of Real Love. There's stuff like George working on Not Guilty with the Beatles when he was still in the band, although that was not released till later on. There was some of the stuff that Paul wrote for other people, like Come and Get It and Goodbye. Come and Get It for Badfinger, Goodbye for Mary Hopkin. Christmas Time Is Here Again popped in there. Sour Milk Sea, which George wrote for Jackie Lomax. Step Inside Love, which Paul wrote for Cilla Black. There's Mary Jane Had a Pain at the Party. What's the New Mary Jane? There's also Decca stuff. So 3 Cool Cats and all the stuff that was in that original Decca series. One of the CDs has a lot of George's All Things Must Pass activity. That's interesting. John doing Child of Nature, which became Jealous Guy in his solo years. Paul doing Teddy Boy, which originally he thought would be a Beatles song, but wound up being on the McCartney, his first album, McCartney. There's stuff that was on the anthology, but in every case, it's a different version. It's either a different take, or it's a different mix, or it's a remix, that sort of thing. So there's 8 CDs, and it's really it's like Christmas Day listening to this stuff. A lot of it you've never heard before. We're talking about really pretty rare stuff in many cases, and also stuff that's been on a lot of other bootlegs. But so this first set came out, and like I said, in December of 2017, and then a little while later, I'm looking for the dates here. The second set came out in January of 2019. So went from 2017 to 2019, and then we got this box here, which is called The Lost Album 2. This box had 14 more CDs. So 8 CDs, now we got 14 more. So we're up to 22 CDs. And I want to read you what it says on the back of this, because this is readable. The text is not too small, and it's very relevant to what the creators were trying to accomplish. So it says the Lost Album Project was born from the idea of gathering for the first time all of the Beatles' unreleased compositions, also relevant variations of known Beatles compositions, improvs, jams, and cover versions performed by the group that were never included in any studio album or single. Many of the tracks come from demos, home recordings, rehearsals, so the original quality may be low in some cases. In this album, we try to improve the audio quality as much as possible, recovering audio drops, fixing technical problems, recording failures, and so on. Software tools have been used to clean, remaster, and enhance the tracks without ever losing the fidelity to their originals. Short and unfinished songs were sewn into each other with soft transitions, resulting in a more consistent track. I'm going to go off script for a minute. That in particular is a really good feature of these CDs, where they only have 20 seconds or a minute of a song. They blend them together in kind of a crossfade, so that it sounds like the best analogy I could think of is side 2 of Abbey Road. Where you got a bunch of songs that are a minute long that got pasted together, and after a while, it sounds exactly like it's normal, like that's what it should sound like. So they did that throughout. So an example of that is, I don't remember if it's on the first set or the second set. Paul wrote "World Without Love" for Peter and Gordon. Now, I have yet to hear a full-blown demo, of a full-length demo of "World Without Love," but they have, just maybe 20 seconds of it, and it's basically the line, "I don't care what they say," that line, the title line, and they wove it into something else, and it just keeps on going like it's a medley, and you're like, wow, that was cool. So anyway, I'm continuing to read this. So it also says overdubs and collages were all extracted from original Beatles material from their period of activity, 1958 to 1969. With the Lost Album 2, we conclude the series of all unpublished Beatles material. We hope everyone has enjoyed the last ride on the Magical Mystery Tour. So at this point in time, in January of 2019, they were basically saying, this is all we got. We gave you 8 CDs before. We got 14 more CDs in here. And again, it's a mixed bag. I can't possibly go through it all with you. There's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs in this whole series. And I haven't told you much about the rest of the series yet. So that is, that's what it says about the series and the intent. And they were declaring victory and declaring the end right here at set number 2, and we're 22 CDs into it. Okay. So far, what I've discovered, and when I show you how many CDs are involved in this whole series, you'll understand what I mean by the word discovery. I couldn't possibly listen to all this yet. Anyway, what I've discovered so far is, first of all, in a sense, every CD can be listened to as if it were a standalone CD, and you could make up a title. And in some of these, I'll show you later, they actually did make up a title for that particular CD, even though it was in a box set with many other CDs. There's lots of outtakes, lots of unreleased songs. There's lots of solo songs being worked on as the Beatles that wound up being solo songs later, and that's from like All Things Must Pass and, Plastic Ono Band, even Imagine, the McCartney album. I think there's a little bit of Ram even. All of the BBC material is somewhere in this set. All of the Get Back material, Get Back / Let It Be, all of that is in here. All the Decca stuff is in here. All the Rooftop stuff from Abbey Road. sorry, from Get Back film, or the Let It Be film. All the Rooftop stuff is in here. I confused that because there's Abbey Road stuff in here, a lot of it. There's most of the Germany live stuff is in here. In fact, all unreleased live material that was recorded anywhere in the world is in here. Budokan, it's all in here. Stockholm, it's all in here. Paul's Family Way stuff, a lot of Magical Mystery Tour stuff, some of the Threedles stuff from the anthology period, 1995. In some cases, there's just snippets of songs, and as I said before, they're faded and they're blended together, so they sort of create these new medleys. But mostly, it's complete songs. There's some new collages, which kind of, excuse me, in the style of the Love album. The collages are overlays, where they took music maybe from one source and different vocal from a different source to make a better version of a song. So they might have had a tape with kind of difficult to hear lyrics or singing, but good music, and another one where there was better vocal performance, and they were able to put them together. So they call those collages in here, where they kind of mix some sound together. There's no AI, so it's not artificial in any way. It's using real Beatles source material, but in a remix kind of a fashion. By the time we get to the series end, almost everything that's been remixed is here in this set, and it's different versions of remixes. So there's a lot of stuff. In every case, I'll say finally, as an overview, in every case, there was an attempt to achieve the absolute best version using modern remix technique, equalization, so on. So in some cases, you get the same song, the same take in a later release of the Lost Album series, because they figured out a way to clean it up and make it even better. So the first song on the first disc is Free as a Bird. It also shows up 2 more times throughout the set, because subsequently mixes were made that sounded better, and they weren't necessarily released, but they were made, and they're here. So that's it so far. So we're now up to the Lost Albums, Volume 2, and here's what these CDs look like. I didn't show you the inside of these yet, so I'll show you the inside. The inner sleeve has titles. Look at how many songs are on one CD. And then this is CD 2 from this set. And then both CDs are in there with a divider in between to keep them nice. So, I don't know. There's 100 songs on here, or pieces of songs. So that's one of the 14 that are in that box referred to as Lost Album 2. It's the box, empty box. Okay. They could have come out with Lost Album 3, and now when they talk about this in hindsight, they refer to it as Volume 3, but the title was The Lost Album 2.5. And again, they declare that this is the end, and they actually put, and in the end, the love you take, so on. This is a 12 CD set. So now we had 8 and 14, that's 22, and now 12. So we're up to 34 CDs, okay? 34, and we ain't done yet. This particular one has a lot of White Album stuff, a lot of Pepper stuff, a lot of Get Back. It has Hollywood Bowl stuff. It has Budokan. It has Stockholm. I mentioned those before, but they happen to be in this set. Magical Mystery Tour stuff. So a lot of mid and later period stuff, but also Hollywood Bowl. And I forget, there may be sprinkled in a couple of early things too. I mean, keep in mind this set covers 58 to 69. So there's representation for whatever version of the Beatles you want to hear. There's representation here. So 2.5, the Lost Album 2.5, now referred to sort of historically as the third volume in a series, This came out in April of 2019. So the first box came out in December of 2017. Lost Albums 2 came out in January of 2019. And this came out in April of 2019. So here they were back here, and I was reading it to you before, saying, this is it, there's no more, blah, blah, blah. This is the end. And four months later, you get 2.5. So go figure. So are we done yet? No, not even close. Not even close. So then they decided, they found a bunch of new stuff, and they really thought they're done now. And I can't read you the print on this box because it's so tiny. But then came the last Lost album. And it says bonus box. So they're declaring one box set ago that they're done. And now they come out with this box. Look at the width of this box. This box is 30 CDs in this box. And again, it's just more of what I've been talking about. Newer, cleaned up, better sounding versions of things that they found. And it just goes on and on. It's Christmas morning if you're a Beatle fan. The stuff in here, there's more Pepper stuff. There's Abbey Road stuff. There's Get Back stuff. There's really early stuff. There's another remix of Free as a Bird and Real Love. There's a thing that quite controversial. I have not listened to it yet because I mentioned there's a lot of songs on a lot of CDs here. Now we got 30 of them. There's a thing, not Carnival, Carousel of Light. And it's 26 minutes long, part 1. And part 2 is 17 minutes and 14 seconds. And that's on this set here, Carousel of Light. When I finally get to listen to that, I'm working my way through these and kind of cherry picking them. I'm going to do a show just on that. I don't know if it's the infamous Carnival of Light. They call it Carousel of Light on here. And combined, it's 40 minutes of something. There's a part 1, 26 minutes, and a part 2, 17 minutes. So we'll find out soon what that's all about. So, are we done yet? No. So that was to be the last Lost album. Okay. But lo and behold, January of 2020, right there. In August of 2020 came something else. And I will show you what that was when I can pull it together. Okay, there it is, right there. Volume 5. So notice they've been using this black and white theme. Now they're black and white and like a negative image. Okay. And there's something worth reading on the back of this too. You can pause it if you want to catch up and read it later. I'm going to read part of it. The Lost Album series brings together all Beatles material never officially released to this date, 2020. Bonus demos, studio demos, unreleased, unpublished songs, studio sessions, outtakes, home jams, rehearsals, improvs, alternate takes and demos, concerts, covers, auditions, unpublished alternate mixes, studio monitor mixes, acetates, informal sessions, home tapes, live recordings, reunions, appearances on TV, movies, radio specials, video events, songs and interviews, and everything else involving Beatles unofficial music audio. This is the last update to the Lost Albums and Volume 5. Of course, you've read the word last in previous volumes, but now we mean it, folks. Actually, we can't be blamed for the 2 volumes released after the Lost Album 2.5. When we finalized it, we really intended 2.5 to be the last interaction of the series. But a massive number of requests for new releases could not be denied. So the last Lost Album was created and as the name suggested, it was supposed to be the last one. However, once again, we were struck with a series of fan requests for yet another release. This time with the argument that we're now so close to getting every non-official Beatles release into a single compilation series. Then we were led to create Lost 5, the only one intended to be eventually updated. With it now we have the complete BBC performances, all live performances with acceptable recording quality. Only terrible recordings were left out. Additional demos, outtakes, remixes, and a last batch of Get Back sessions, deemed musically relevant. Hard to read some of this. We left out tons of dialogue, instrument tuning, interrupted practice takes, very sloppy rehearsal takes. We did not include the part of their recorded material that doesn't necessarily contribute to a pleasant musical experience, and a few other inserts. With these new updates, we now conclude the collection of all non-official Fab 4 music releases without margin for new requests or new volume releases. Time to say goodbye with a wonderful feeling of mission accomplished, with all the warm reception the project as a whole has been enjoying. Our most sincere thanks to everyone who collaborated directly or indirectly. Well, so 30 CDs in this box. Sorry, this is 5. 32 CDs in this box. So we had 30 in this one, which was going to be the last Lost album. Now we got this one. It's got 32 more. So we're up to 96 CDs now. 96. And all of what I said. Well, is it the last one? No. It's one more. Just one more. This one. The Lost album, 6th. And this one, like some of the others, this one has themes. So I'll show you what the themes are on the back here. So they actually have names of the albums within here. They gave them names. So if you want to pause that. And I'll go through 6th. Okay? 6th has 12 more CDs. Plus, it has 2 bonus discs. So it actually has 15 in the total set. 15 more CDs. So here's the first one. First disc has the name The Band Begins at 10 to 6. And it has basically rock stuff, early stuff, and then it gets all the way up to Rain. Then it gets into A Day in the Life and Hey Jude. Again, different takes, lots of remixes. The second one is Get Back outtakes. So there are the lengthy song list for each of those CDs. And then we got CD 3 and 4, and they're titled Yesterday Never Knows, and the non-album singles remix, 1965 to 1996. And this takes you all the way up to a Real Love and Free as a Bird remix from 2021. And that's what the back of that looks like. So those are the 2 albums within an album here. The next one is non-album singles, 1962 to 1965 remix. So this is Beatles for Sale, A Little Bit of Help, even earlier, Please Please Me, God, I Want to Hold Your Hand, I Get You, She Loves You, Love Me Do. Got a lot of early stuff on that one, and it's got some later stuff. Get Back. They have some of the Let It Be Naked stuff on here. And then there's another Get Back album on this is the Glyn Johns mix. So that's what's in that one. Then we got disc 7 and disc 8. The first one is all the Christmas records. So the disc 7 is the Christmas album, basically. Disc 8 is the Get Back documentary, part 1. So you can see on that Get Back one, each track has the same name. It takes you through the Get Back documentary. And then this next one has 2 more. This is disc 9 and 10. It has 2 more discs that are completely Get Back documentary. And then disc 11 concludes the Get Back documentary, and it has a disc called Coda. And it has Beatles Get Back documentary ending, Old Brown Shoe remix, the Beat Brothers backing music from their work with Tony Sheridan. It has Step Inside Love, Paul rehearsing that with Scylla. And then it's got I've Got a Feeling / Get Back sessions, rehearsal. And then it's called High on the Wall. I think it's High on the Wall. I'm not, Fly on the Wall, sorry. The Fly on the Wall from Let It Be Naked, of course. And then Coda. So that ostensibly is the last CDs in the set, called Sixth. And then they broke their own rules, basically. And they put together 2 albums here, one called Remix and one called Revolver Sessions Remix. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. And again, this is from 2022 now. This is new stuff. And then we have on the last bonus disc, so this is disc 15 in this set. The last bonus disc starts with the entire rooftop performance and then more of the Revolver sessions. So we are at 111 CDs. 6, 5, 4, 3 or 2.5, 2, and remember this? 1. Didn't have a number then. It was just a lost album. It was going to be the last one. 111 CDs later, we got all of that. I don't know what else to tell you about this. This absolutely blows my mind. I've had most of it for a while. It's a little difficult to find, but I have seen recent parts of it. It's typically not sold as a set. They're sold individually. The entire set now, in today's dollars, if you can find an entire set, you're looking at $1,000. It's 111 CDs. So, figure $10 a piece, $9 a piece, something like that. You're looking at certainly $1,000 if you tried to buy one set at a time and try to piece it together yourself over time. I would say at least $1,000. That's 100. That's 125. That's 125. That's about 250. That's about 250. And that's about 150, 175. That's what I've seen. I mean, you might find it for cheaper. I've seen some sets on eBay recently. Not sets, sorry, just individual issues. I saw volume 1, and then I saw an auction that was, they said it was complete, but it was actually volume 1 and volume 2, and that was all it was, but they called it a complete set on eBay. And I think the bidding was at 150 or something like that, and it wasn't done yet. So, I don't know if it's easy to find. It's not. You might check Etsy. You might check eBay. You might check other auction sources. I'm not sure. But, it's not easy to find, but it is amazing, for want of a better way to say it. If I had to put one word on it, I'd put amazing. If I could put 2 words on it, I'd put Christmas morning. Because you will enjoy this set for a long time. and it'll take you a long time to get through it. You saw how many titles are on each CD. I mean, they're maxed out. Each of these CDs is maxed out to the last second. So 111 of them, it'll take you a while. But is it worth the money? I can't tell you whether it's worth the money. You know, $1,000 is a mortgage payment for some people. It's 2 or 3 car payments for some people. It's the last $1,000 that people have in the bank. It's $1,000 that people don't have in the bank. And you know, what can I say? What is this stuff worth to you? It's amazing. The stuff that's been remixed sounds phenomenal. Some of it we haven't heard officially yet. Some of it we have heard the remixes, but we heard different versions of the remixes. It's just, you know, I don't know what else to say other than the Lost Album series. It's right at the top of the list in all-time bootlegs. Now, the only negative I'll say is you can probably see the packaging. This is really light packaging. You know, this stuff is a bit flimsy. When you try to squeeze the CDs in there, you know, they're a bit, you know, the jackets are a little flimsy. You know, they're not too bad. And there's 2 CDs shoved in most of them. You know, the pictures aren't great. On that last set, you know, on the 1/6, I showed you the box. And this was what the individual CDs look like, except for the 2 bonuses. The 2 bonuses look like this on the front. They're kind of cool, too. Anyway, it's not the highest quality packaging. It's not the highest quality, you know, boxes or CD jackets. But the sound is good, and they do a good job of showing you what's on there in legible fashion. I didn't have time to show you 108 sleeves, so I try to give you an overview of what's on here. As I have a chance to really explore it some more, I may do some shows on individual CDs that are in these sets or individual sets that are in the series. But for now, I wanted to give you an overview of what's in there so that if you see it somewhere out in the wild and you're trying to decide what the heck is that and is it worth my money, it is. If you have the money and you can afford to drop 100 on a box set or 1,000 on a series, it's top-notch stuff. It's really good sound, and there's really some trinkets in here that are very hard to find, and you'll never find them all in one place. So for a bootlegger to declare, we are going to put in a series of CDs every unreleased Beatle activity from 1958 to 1969 is a very ambitious plan, and they've come pretty darn close to accomplishing that. I didn't mention before, they even have all of the soundtrack from the Beatles cartoons, and not just the songs, the dialogue. So, I mean, everything that hasn't been released officially, and a lot of things that have been released officially but have been redone, remixed, remastered, whatever, it's in here. So that's all I'm going to say on it. And if you have any questions, you want to drop them in the comments, please do. Like I said, I'm going to go back and listen again to some of this stuff. Some of it I haven't heard in a while. Some of it I've never heard. I just haven't gotten that far. So anyway, if you have comments or questions, please do that. And if you like this video, please hit that thumbs up like. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please hit the subscribe button. And I hope to see you again for a future video, or when I give a more detailed discussion about this set here. So that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. We'll look forward to seeing you again. Take care.